as Braden mentioned, we are going to be discussing about how to keep participants engaged. We're going to be finishing up life cycle 2 in this session, which is called During the Meeting. And in the workshop registration survey that you took, many of you indicated that keeping participants engaged is one of the main things that you hope to learn about. And hopefully you've learned lots of different ways to do this throughout the entire workshop. So we've had some great instruction from Andrea, from Eddie, from Braden so far, just about dedicating physical spaces for virtual meetings. We've talked about etiquette. We've talked about sending out the meeting agenda on time, about being on time, facilitation tips, and a whole lot more. So let's take that a step further now into creating an engaging virtual space where we can really connect, participate, and feel more like we're all together. So many of you might remember a time before computers when you were totally reliant on your own handwritten notes to help you remember key points of a meeting or classroom discussion. Research shows that even if you have less to look back on, handwritten notes actually help you to process information better, and it improves learning and retention. Writing things down also increases engagement because it keeps you focused and helps you to avoid distractions like checking email or surfing the web, like Braden mentioned before. And notes that I want you to take today are going to be focused solely on answering this question that you see up on your screen here. What are 2 engagement strategies from the discussion that I want to use in my next meeting? Now, these might be things that you see on a PowerPoint slide. They might be things that you learn from someone else in the room during the chat. So I hope you all are willing to share. They might be things that you see me do. They might be might be things that you see me not do. So take notes if you possibly can. And I'm going to ask this question again at the end of the meeting. So I hope you're prepared to give me a response. Does everybody have a pen or pencil and something to write with? Go ahead and just give me a thumbs up in the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen. And then as soon as I see thumbs up, thank you, Anna, then we'll go ahead and begin. Thank you, Carolina. Awesome, Greg, thank you. All right, it looks like everybody's got something. Much of what we've learned so far supports the idea that high quality meetings engage participants before, during, and after the meeting. And this may seem like a lot of work, and it is, but it's important to remember that engagement isn't just one thing. It's using multiple tools and strategies to build up engagement over time. So keep thinking about the tools and strategies you want to implement in your future meetings that are going to help participants to stay interested in the purpose of the meeting, keep them willing to participate in the discussion, and focused on the tasks at hand. Today, we're going to go ahead and discuss engagement through casual conversations, and we'll talk about how to start those up. We'll also talk about how virtual backgrounds can be used in a variety of ways to support engagement. And then finally, we're going to talk about different activities that invite participation from most, if not all, of the group. So let's go ahead and dive in. In the Ultimate Guide to Remote Meetings, Deanna DeBarra emphasizes the importance of making time for casual conversation. So like it's been discussed before, we can try kicking off our meeting with a few minutes of chit chat or friendly banter. And, I love doing this, especially today. We've got to talk to Rachel for a little bit and see the fawn that she rescued in her backyard. Got to talk to Dwayne about his move. We got to kind of get a little bit personal there, which was really kind of fun to just catch up with people. This type of conversation really does help to keep participants engaged when you move the conversation to agenda topics. And it makes sure that those latecomers that we talked about will not have missed too much at the very start of the meeting, if possible, even though we're just going to keep moving on whether they're late or not. So when you think about it, humans are very, very social creatures. So when we have in-person conversations, they happen naturally when we can see a person in a physical space. We can read their body language, we can visit with them. But even in a virtual space, it's important for people to socialize and to connect with these same types of cues with light conversation. So this really does increase engagement online, because even though you can't see a person directly across from you, it gives you a feel that you are in the same room together. So when you think about your computer speakers, they are really your voice that people are going to hear. So make sure that you speak loudly and clearly. I really like what Greg said yesterday about people who are hearing impaired needing Bluetooth technology sometimes to really connect with people and hear clearly. If you have problems at all being able to hear in person, you know, you really decrease your ability to hear once you take things to a text space, because computers aren't that great sometimes with really keeping the sound up. So make sure as a facilitator and a participant that you are speaking loudly and clearly. This may sound simple, but it's really important to smile. You know, when you think about if you were in person, you would probably be smiling, but just like you were in person, just give yourself a smile. It's so relaxing. I kind of want to look at everybody that still has their cameras open. I want you to kind of just not look at the PowerPoint for a second, turn on your video for a minute and just smile. You can wave, use the same body language that you would in person. Just practice it in the video gallery if you want to say thanks. I see people waving and smiling. Hi, Margot. I love your smile all the time. Greg, thank you so much for that. Dwayne. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that, Robin, too. It's so great to see everybody's faces and your facial expressions. It may seem, you know, something simple, but smiling really does increase engagement because it creates a positive perception of you, and it helps to build trust. It can also make you look courteous and competent, and it looks so much better on a video recording than if you have a moody or stressed expression on your face, right? I also have a couple of calm resting faces that I keep in my back pocket when I'm in a meeting, whether I'm a participant or whether I'm a facilitator. You can practice this like in a mirror or before or after a meeting where casual conversations can take place. The goal is to make everybody feel connected and confident from the get-go. So in your cameras, if you can show me kind of a smile real quick and then kind of move to a resting face. This is one of my resting faces. Or you could look in another direction. Nice resting face, Greg. I like that one. Very good resting faces. You don't want your cheeks to get hurt after a while for smiling so much. Thanks, Karen. All right. We're going to talk about a few of the things that Braden's already mentioned, like encouraging joining early and starting on time. That's also very, very important. But you can use this early time for light conversations as people enter the room, for making introductions. You can do roll call. I love Amanda's suggestion about creating an activity ahead of time. I thought that was fantastic. And it's important, especially if you have visitors or guests that don't know everyone. This really kind of helps to, you know, make introductions so that people feel comfortable. You can even build joining early to a meeting into your calendar invitation and let people know that you're going to open the meeting 10 or 15 minutes early or even a half hour early if people want to visit with each other before the meeting starts. And I know for some of us at NEDARC, we just love that time to say, hey, I know you're going to be on a little bit early. Let's chat about something. If you're early, you can also ask people if they have questions about the agenda that was sent out ahead of time to start that casual conversation. So let's take a look at some of these. Asking simple questions, great conversation starters, and it's a way to get people in a thinking mindset. Some people might find it challenging to answer a question on the fly. So having a slide for them to think about ahead of time with a question like this on it up before the meeting starts is a great way to initiate conversation as people arrive. You can also do this slide and just give people segments, you know, 3 to 5 minutes to really think about a question you want them to consider during the meeting. This slide asks, what are you thankful for?
We have, oh my gosh, it's coming in fast. My family, water, NEDARC, healthy family and friends, health, afternoon coffee, air conditioning, Friday, sunshine, working from home, goat milk, replacement milk for fawns, naps, flowers, good internet, coffee, morning coffee. Oh my gosh, you guys are fast. Eggs, dogs, Today the sky is clear, good air quality. I agree with you on that one, Robin. We're much better too here. Oh yes, clear skies. All right, slow down for a sec. Okay, my phone calendar, donuts, Mike. That it's Friday. Weekends.
Weekends, yes, awesome. I absolutely love asking this question. Not only does it get you away from maybe things that are worrying you or things that are problems, but it also reminds you of all the good things that are going on in your life at the moment. And then maybe it kind of helps to decrease your stress level. But I'm just going to say that I'm grateful for all of you for throwing so much participation at me right there. That was fantastic. I absolutely love all of the things that you said too. And I think we can connect and agree on many of those things, especially the donuts, right, Mike? Thought that was great. Thank you so much for that. Thanks so much for participating, everyone. I love that. Here's another way to get talking, people talking. You can use a fill in the blank sentence like this one. This one does some of the thinking work for the participant while still allowing them to add their personal idea to the conversation. Now, I asked Anna if she'd be willing to fill in this blank for me with a couple of things. About a week ago, I checked in with her about a week ago, and I said, hey, what do you think of the sentence? Anna, are you still on? Do you want to share what you shared with me? A couple of ideas?
I am. Honestly, if you have the email, it'd be better if you read it because I don't remember what I said. But open discussion always keeps me engaged. Obviously, I come off of a bit as like a teacher's pet, but I love having conversations and socializing and learning. So I'm really good at keeping engaged in that way. And laughter and humor always keeps me engaged. Everybody wants to hang out with people who are fun and laughing. So that will always keep me engaged with someone, you know, if they're having a meeting and putting colorful, fun, happy faces on their screen, I'll be paying attention.
Yeah. That's perfect. I hope you're all taking notes on that one. Those are great, great suggestions. Let's open it up to the rest of you. You can unmute if you want to share how you would fill in this sentence, or you can put something in the chat. In a meeting, blank keeps me engaged. What keeps you engaged?
Humor.
Anything else?
Always humor. I agree with Anna, conversation, keeping the conversation moving and not letting it get stagnant. Interesting topics to move on. They're flying in now. Peppy voice, mental breaks, direct questions, keeping things light, seeing faces.
Thank you for sharing that, Anna, for everyone else for your responses too. I really appreciate that. So,
oh, sorry, I was just going to throw in a little, so evolutionarily human brains have to clue into new and different things because it might be something, you know, like a jaguar hiding in the bush. So changing your slides up every now and then, like the background of your slides will cue people into paying attention to their computer screen again. So you've done a wonderful job with that, Jane. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that visual change, that visual cue really alerts your brain. Oh, something else is happening. It's moving. Thank you for that, Anna. I appreciate it. Andrea actually discussed the importance of defining objectives and desired outcomes when creating an agenda. And you can use these objectives to create questions that are conversation starters. It's a great way to keep your meeting on track. Questions like the one you see here help to naturally transition from small talk to a deeper meeting discussion that you can expand on. So when you think about it, asking questions isn't just about getting to the answer, right? It helps you to learn more about each participant and what's important to them. So asking questions also helps you to feel, helps others to feel safe to share their ideas. And remember that not everyone feels comfortable verbalizing their responses. In fact, 40% of the population is comprised of introverts who may not feel comfortable speaking up. And you know what, that's okay. Be sure to just give everybody a voice by providing different options for how to respond to questions. So, you know, that's why we have things like the chat. You can unmute if you want to, you can raise your hand or use an emoji. I always say that the best ideas happen 20 minutes after the meeting is over. So I like to invite participants to email me after the meeting, continue sharing ideas. Don't let the ideas stop just when the meeting ends, because you do need time to marinate on those things. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to talk about virtual backgrounds. A virtual background is simply defined as a simulated environment that appears behind a participant in a video conference. A virtual background can make it appear that people are at the beach, at a famous landmark, or even in outer space. So some of you might be required to use an organizational background or template for some or maybe all of your meetings. And if this is the case, consider using virtual backgrounds at pop-up meetings or maybe during office hours or other internal meetings that are more casual. Let's take a look at just a couple of ways that using virtual backgrounds can create engagement in a meeting. So I want you to look closely at this photo. I want you to type in the chat or share over the phone if you want to, what you think the background theme is for this meeting. And while you're thinking about it, I'm just going to mention that at NEDARC, whoever facilitates the meeting will send an email with the agenda just a few days prior to the meeting. We learned from Andrea that this is important for engagement so that people can look at the agenda ahead of time and be prepared. In that same email, the facilitator will often suggest a 1 or 2 word optional background theme. So something along the line of, maybe the theme is food, or maybe the theme is kids, or maybe the theme is EMS, something like that. This gives time for participants to search for a background that's going to fit the theme, but also fit their personality. So let's see what theme you thought this was from the comments in the chat. Andrea, do we have any responses?
Oh yeah, and I'm trying not to laugh too much. Really old movies. This meeting is out of this world. Use the Force, Star Wars, A Time Before COVID, favorite space themed movies, space movies, how to appropriately care for your droid. Mike's Man Cave, haha. That was Greg who said that.
Sorry, I love that so much. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, and then Anna wisely said the NEDARCian force is strong on this one.
Indeed. That's great. It was space and sci-fi. You all got it right. You all got it right. Thank you so much for that. You can see how this totally increases engagement because it makes it just, a lot more fun. Not only that, it kind of creates a show and tell type of atmosphere. Theme backgrounds are going to spark thought. They're going to spark creativity to get people, again, in that thinking mindset. And it's optional. It's no pressure. It's a great conversation starter. If people don't want to participate, they don't have to, but seeing other people, they can still enjoy what other people come up with. I don't know how many meetings we've had at NEDARC where someone comes in without a background, like, oh, I want to do this too. I forgot about it. And they hurry and they find a background. So it makes it a lot of fun. So you may have noticed that during this workshop, all of our presenters have used the same kind of, background that we've had to create a unified and a professional look. And that's still the case if you do need to use a professional background. It still keeps you unified. I'm gonna, just looking at this background right here, what do you think the theme was for this one? You can go ahead and put your ideas in the chat.
While they're typing that in there, people are commenting through this section that you're presenting on. It's so fun. I like the show and tell idea, birthday, and then I have some fantastic backgrounds I've been trying to put up, but it won't do it. I guess it's Anna. We can talk to you about that, Anna, maybe help you with that. Pet party, colorful pups. Sometimes if your image is too high resolution, it won't work. Also colors. I didn't even see the dogs. LOL. Pet party for sure.
Yeah, we started as a celebration theme and somehow all of our dogs just got involved, but it made it really fun for a minute. So you don't know what ideas are going to spark from an initial idea and turn into something, that much more fun or meaningful. So yeah, great ideas. You got it right, right with all of your responses. I appreciate that. So we're today is day 2 and it's Friday the 13th. We even made a professional background with Jason Voorhees as a joke, just for fun. So if you want to take a look at Braden or Mike or Andrea, their video camera right now, this is, not a Where's Waldo, it's Where's Jason Voorhees. If you can spot there's Jason Voorhees in the background for Friday the 13th. That's just for you, care of NEDARC. You're welcome. So I'm going to give you a pro tip. Theme backgrounds can be really fun, but make sure your background is not a distraction. We got to be careful with that. If needed, share your backgrounds at the beginning of the meeting, and then you can ask people to turn their cameras off just before you get started. You can have a place kind of set aside for a break if you want to share, your backgrounds that way too. There's lots of places to interject them to make them fun, but also to make sure that they're not a distraction. So many of you may be thinking, where do I get free ones? Where do I get those virtual backgrounds? If you think back to the initial question slides that I used at the beginning of the presentation, kind of for those conversation starters, those came from canva.com. Canva is a free design and publishing tool that allows you to edit and publish from pre-made templates, or you can create your own. It's great for presentations, social media, video, and there are a lot more ways that you can use it. Another one that I really like is Pexels. It's a free stock photo and video website, and it's also an app. So anyone looking for great pictures can search Pexels through thousands of images that you can download for free. Sometimes at NEDARC, we use a short MP4 background video that you can get off of Pexels that loops realistic movement in the background like a GIF. But again, that can be a distraction if you're not careful, but they're really rather fun. You should check it out. Another one that I like is Unsplash. It's created from a worldwide community of photographers who submit professional looking photos for free. And the only ask is that you attribute the artist's work with a link credit that you can copy and paste onto your creation or in a social media post to recognize the artist. So in exchange for high quality, really great photos, you're helping to kind of advertise them a little bit. Another one that I really like is Pixabay, which is similar to Pexels and Unsplash in that it was created by a community of artists who share copyright-free images, videos, and music. And all of these websites are free and easy to use. Some may require you to put in a login to use their service. All of them appreciate and sometimes require that you recognize the artist with a link. And some also have additional upgrades for features or pro content if you want to subscribe to them. So I encourage you to check these out, and any others that you find online. These are just ones that we at NEDARC use quite frequently. But do any of you have any questions about virtual backgrounds and where to get them before I move forward?
Jane,
Yeah.
Amy Eisenhower added also using your own photos.
Yes.
And it was commented that Dwayne has selected a wonderful background. I can't see it because of having the chat box so big, so I'm not sure what they're referring to, but it looks like people are almost falling out of their chair laughing.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Are you going to copyright that, Dwayne? I think I have to have that background. I was wondering why
awesome.
Anna was laughing so hard. That is the ultimate background you could ever get. I think it's fantastic. I hope you upload it to one of these sites.
I will say that we in our office do a lot of this in our staff meetings just to break the ice on what's going on. And I think it really makes a difference that you just throw something up there and somebody's got one interesting every staff meeting.
Oh, that is wonderful. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that, Dwayne.
That just
Yeah, any of the rest
It's been closed today.
There are more comments.
Sure.
Amy said they did that to their boss. Their boss was on vacation, came back, and he was part of their backgrounds. And Carolina said she did that with her coworkers at home. He has flags, and every meeting I put it up to commemorate him.
I love that you guys are utilizing the strategy. It's a fantastic one and can really make a huge difference in your meetings.
So
thanks so much for sharing.
I do have a quick question about when you set those up. Are there recommended colors you should use? I notice that sometimes people vanish more often than other people, and I don't know if that's a color thing or because of what's in your background, not so much the background.
Actually, multiple factors. It's lighting, it's what's in your background, the colors that are there, your real background versus what's in your virtual background. And then also how close or far away those objects are to where you're sitting. There's just many different reasons.
Yeah.
So recently I got staff green screens so they could minimize that problem.
And they work beautifully. We appreciate Andrea so much for getting those for us, because it really does kind of take away kind of that background. If you notice, my water bottle, for example, is green, but you can't see it against the green screen because it kind of knocks out some of that color there. But perfect question and perfect segue. I appreciate you asking that, because virtual backgrounds do work well when you have strong lighting that allows the computer to detect where you end and your background begins. So for example, we did a presentation earlier this morning and it was an all blue background. And I had a dark blue shirt on, and you can kind of not tell where I begin and the background ended. So I went and I changed my shirt for that other presentation just to make sure there was enough contrast there that you could kind of see definition behind me. Sometimes you see things that appear to be poking through a virtual background, like a chair or a dog or a child or something in the background. And that just may simply be the result of poor lighting. So backgrounds are most useful when you can stay crisp and in focus in front of them. So check a few things, you know, practice it. You don't have to wait till a meeting starts before you do that. So does that answer your question, Rachel?
Yes, perfectly. Thanks so much.
Jane,
course, yeah.
Carolina has her hand raised.
Yes, Carolina.
No, I just wanted to add to that, that another thing that I always do or try to do at some meetings, like I'll have a silly background at the first, like when I'm welcoming everyone, and then I will switch to like, okay, now let's do professional, but it sort of gets people talking in the beginning. And then once we're all ready and set and everybody's on, then I would switch to either, if my office is playing right, my normal background, and then I struggle because of my hair, so the virtual backgrounds look weird, but I always do that. I switch around backgrounds.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. And having, you know, it there from the get-go, like you said, is really important so that you know it's there, it's sound, it's set. And if you need to swap things up, having backgrounds in your pocket that you know work really well, if you need to change it, is a great strategy too. Thank you so much for that, Carolina. Any other comments about that lighting and such? All right, I want to show you one more, and I couldn't demonstrate this because it's on MS Teams. But one final background that you might want to look into is one that the MS Teams uses. It's an AI segmentation technology to digitally place participants into a shared background. So it makes it feel like you're sitting in kind of a theater or a boardroom together. So first, you make sure you have the newest version of MS Teams. And then while you're all in a meeting together, all you need to do is click on the 3 horizontal dots at the top of your screen, and a drop-down menu is going to appear. You just scroll down and you click on Together Mode. That's all you need to remember, is just Together Mode. And what will happen is that anybody that has their video camera on are going to appear in this virtual room with a business-like arena-style seating. You may not be able to see yourself, but others will still be able to see you if they're in Together Mode as well. And it doesn't create a static background like this. You're still moving, like you're still talking to each other. You see people turning their faces from side to side, back and forth. It's actually really funny. And just to the point of lighting, you can tell in this particular background, you can see Mike's lighting is a little bit darker. We've been working with him on that because he always appears to be this silhouette in the background, but you can see where Andrea's face and Patty's face are a little bit brighter. They've got some kind of more direct lighting on them, and you can see where Eddie and Braden have kind of just about the right amount of lighting on them. So you can see where their backgrounds are really kind of blending pretty good with the foreground image of themselves. So it's really easy to do. But this is a really fun way to stay engaged in the same virtual background room. So
Jane,
thank you so much. Yes.
Sorry, question from Robin. And she
Yes.
said, how do you have a blurred background like Greg?
Oh, that's a great question. So if you're using Zoom, and you go to your background. So down on the bottom of your toolbar, you have where it says stop video, there's a caret, a drop down caret. If you click on that, you can click on choose virtual background, and it'll open up kind of your virtual background, backdrop there. And then you'll have some options there. You can use video filters, which is probably a whole tech talk we could do on and have fun with. But in your video filter section, you should have a blur option where you can blur your background. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for demonstrating, Rachel, what a video filter looks like. That is fantastic. Carolina, I love yours too. That is awesome. I'm waiting for Dwayne to create a filter of Anna on his face, even though he's got a background already. Braden is showing an example of what an MP4 background looks like with Napoleon Dynamite in the background. I think that is great. So thank you so much for being willing to have so much fun with backgrounds. If you have any other questions, by all means, feel free to ask, interject in the chat, or check with us after the meeting. TAs love having fun with this stuff. So, all right, let's go ahead and move forward here. And we're going to talk about meeting activities. Again, I love the activities that y'all have suggested for things that you do to kind of keep the meeting engaged and going. But it's important to plan to engage or check in with participants about every 10 minutes. That's typically for a regular meeting, and in the virtual space, it can actually be every 4 to 7 minutes. They encourage you to check in, just because there are so many other possible distractions that can occur in a virtual atmosphere. It brings attention back to the discussion for people to have a check-in, and you can check in by having everybody share an emoji about how they're feeling if you'd like to. I don't know if any of you remembered how Andrea did this yesterday. You can also ask if people have questions or create a quiz. We talked about, doing quizzes and fun things like that. Just as a check-in or an activity, let's have everybody check in now by choosing an emoji from the reactions bar, and let me know how you're feeling about engaging participants. You can put that on your video, or you can put it in the chat. I want to see your emojis right now. Let's check in and see how you're feeling. Ooh, nice clown one, Mike. I like that. You can tell some of you are thinking hard about it. Braden's got a graduate. Very cool.
Learning.
Yes, you're learning. That's awesome. I like Carolina's. There's so many available options. Oh, you don't have emojis on. I'm sorry to hear that. And if you don't, that's okay too. In Zoom, if you go to your reactions bar, sometimes they have the celebration ones. They have thumbs up or hand wave, things like that you can also use as well. So many of you wanted to also learn about polling your participants during a meeting. I know I've got that also on the slide. And I just wanted to share that though polling does increase engagement, it turns out I'm not going to have time to go over polling for the variety of platforms that are out there. However, Eddie did recently give a really great tech talk about polling, and I'm going to have Andrea put that in the chat for you to review when you have some time. There's also a myriad of great videos on YouTube that you can check out just by searching how to poll with MS Teams or how to poll with Zoom or WebEx or other platforms. So know that polling is a great engagement tool. We've heard earlier how other people use it. I encourage you to use it. It is a great engagement strategy. But just based on whatever system you have, go ahead and look that up, and we'll provide resources as well. Another activity is to ask several participants ahead of time to share a personal story or an example during a meeting. I asked Anna, and I also asked Chelsea to share things in a meeting that either made them feel disengaged or things that made them feel engaged. So Anna, are you still here with us?
I am, but I'm going to have to leave after this.
Thank you for sharing.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be just fine when I leave. We were talking about, I believe it was the experience of not being engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a really hard time when people just put up slides and read the words from the slides. I understand having cues like a single word or a couple words to maybe set the stage for what they're going to talk about. But when especially remotely, when there's no videos or anything set up and it's literally slide after slide and the person is reading the slides, I would rather you just send me the slides, I'll read them beforehand, and then we have an open discussion about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's true for in-person PowerPoint, right? This is why there's death by PowerPoint.
Yeah, I think a lot of us in the room can relate to that. You know, that happens quite a bit, you know, where people just kind of throw slides together and they read directly from the slide as though they're notes when they're not notes, but it does lead to a lot of disengagement. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yes.
Is there anybody else that would like to share maybe things that do keep them engaged in a meeting, or what gets them excited about being in a meeting?
Hey, this is Eric, New Jersey.
Hi, Eric.
How's everybody? So yeah, I like to engage people directly. Kind of keeps them on their toes, keeps them paying attention. So, you know, they don't just drift off because they may hear their name get called and need to know what's going on.
That's excellent. That's a very excellent strategy. Knowing people by name is really important. I'm guessing that most of you know pretty well people who are on your advisory boards and committees, the people that you regularly and routinely have meetings with. So I like that direct approach. Thank you for sharing that. Any other experiences you guys want to share about storytelling? You know, really being a relatable person helps people to stay engaged. It's another engagement strategy that we really like to employ, because it shifts the focus into real experience that participants are going to relate to on a personal level. You all work within EMSC, and I'm sure you have stories to tell about interactions that you've had with people. And it can set the stage for problem solving. It can set the stage for strategic planning, for how you're going to deal with the situation. How many, you know, case studies do you come across where you say, you know, this happened in the pre-hospital setting, and you know, after this child went out of the pre-hospital setting and went into the hospital setting, you know, XYZ happened. And telling a story really sets people in, you know, a different mindset than if they were just being talked at. It's talking to and with people. So listening to a peer or colleague also helps to validate the work that everybody's doing. It further establishes trust and connection with the group. Is what I like to also call as a strategy a peer plant. Which just basically means is that you talk to someone ahead of time, ask them to share a story, or you ask them to share something as part of the meeting, and plant them in the event that engagement is kind of not what you want it to be. If you're having problems getting people to speak up or to share their experiences, you've already got someone who is ready to go during your meeting to do that for you. So all of these are, you know, really great things that occur as a result of storytelling that increase engagement. So this last activity I want to talk about kind of brings everything full circle. Round Robin is an activity that allows all participants to express their opinions or ideas about a specific question, problem, or topic. So for example, in this meeting, I asked you at the beginning to think about 2 engagement strategies from this discussion that you can use in your next meeting. And I really hope you took some notes, because that's the next step. So writing down a response to the question really does get participants ready to share their ideas. So I hope you're ready to share. In Round Robin, the facilitator is going to start with one person, asking them to respond to the question. They call on everybody in the virtual room one by one to do the same, just to answer that question. The facilitator then can announce the order, or they can do this ahead of time. They announce the order and how they're going to do this. So for example, they might say, we're going to go down the list of participants, or I'll use alphabetical order, or I'm going to call people based on how they appear in the video gallery. You can let people know that if they prefer not to share or don't want to participate, they can pass when it's their turn. So let's quickly try a few of these responses right now, see how many we get through. And I'll call on you based on the order I see you in the gallery. You can unmute your phone to respond to the question on the screen, or just say pass if you'd rather not participate. So let me just restate the question. What are 2 engagement strategies from this discussion that I can use in my next meeting? And based on my view in the gallery, we are going to start, I'm going to go backwards here, I think. We're going to start with Julia. What are 2 engagement strategies from this discussion you're going to use in your next meeting, Julia?
2 engagement strategies that I could use are using different polls and things like that, or the fun backgrounds. We normally use Google Meet, so I'm not sure. I actually haven't tried it to use a fun background with that, but it's definitely something that I could look into.
Yeah, that's great. You'll have to let us know how that turns out. Thank you for sharing. Let's move on to Mark Minkler in Maine. What are 2 engagement strategies? And remember, you can pass if you want to.
I think the primary engagement strategy I know that I use is setting up a consistent meeting length time. I know it's kind of related to stuff we've talked about before, but I think the engagement is knowing that we're going to be on point and we're going to cover the material and then we're going to be done and we're not going to drag the meeting on forever. And I found that people are more engaged during meetings because they know it's going to be useful information, but it's going to be not dredging on forever.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I really like that, staying on point and creating expectations with people. That's great. Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to Candace.
Hello, sorry, it took me a minute to find my unmute button. I'm really excited to try out some of these backgrounds. I haven't really done that in the past. And I think that would be really interesting to add something to some of my meetings. And then also I agree with what Mark was saying, just kind of like staying on point, like creating an agenda and making sure that it flows and that we're going from one item to the next and that we're just trying to stay to the point, get people the information that they need, and then get them back to their day. And I think people really appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that too. You don't want to drag things out any longer than they need to be dragged out. And you want people coming back too. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else, I'm not going to call on everybody else just for the sake of time, but does anybody else have 2 other engagement strategies from this discussion that you can use in your next meeting?
Hey, this is Amanda. I like the way that you're just calling on people by name, because that kind of forces us to be engaged and pay attention, which is a good strategy. So that's one, and I'll pass the other one to someone else who wanted to share at the same time. I think was trying to speak up when I was.
Hi, it's Stacy. I really liked the polling and the sharing and like, what am I trying to think of?
Was it show and tell?
Show and tell. Thank you. Yes, I really like that. So I'm definitely going to use both of those in my next meeting.
Great. I'm happy to hear that. They're always fun to try new things, and you never know what people are going to pick up on if you do something different. That's great.
Jane, Dwayne has his hand raised.
Dwayne.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to just step in. 2 things. I like the changing up of the slides so that it's not the same look throughout a meeting. And how you do that really depends, I guess, on the topics going on. But, changing the slides so it's not the same blah, 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 blah. But on the same lines what Mark was saying about keeping it on time, I think it's important to start it on time. And I've been guilty where we're still letting people into the room. We're still waiting people to join, and having that request to start early log in and join early, having casual conversation so that at the time of the meeting start, the meeting does start. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. You will train people how to respond to your meetings by how your expectations are set. So if they know you're starting right on time, they're late, they don't get to catch up, then they'll probably be on time the next time for sure. So thank you for sharing that. So
Jane, sorry, one more was shared in the chat area because people love to stay engaged during your engagement talk.
Perfect.
Make it fun and sharing good news accomplishments. And that was from Margo.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Margo, for that. Everybody likes a boost with good news, right? We can all use good news. And I think that is an excellent way to really keep people engaged. When you hear something great, it's like you want to share in the joy and celebration of that. So absolutely.
And I'm sorry, also, Vicki Peterson had her hand raised. I'm sorry.
Yes, Vicki, please. I appreciate the engagement. I know this isn't truly round robin style where I'm still calling on people because we skipped over some that weren't responding, but that's okay. Vicki.
I just wanted to say something about round robin. Round robin's dicey. You know, you have to know your audience before you start making people feel like they have to talk. And I do round robin in my advisory committee meeting. And I wondered how it would go over. I asked them, I started doing it during COVID. I asked them, what does COVID look like to you right now? What is your life like? And because they're so different, you know, they're EMS providers and they work in hospitals, and my fans, you know, they'll go around and say, I have my daughter who has special healthcare needs and I no longer have any respite care, you know, and we get such a picture of what's going on in everyone's lives. And I think they really like it because the participation has been really good. But I've also tried that in other venues, and people just like skitter away, you know? So you kind of, you have to know your audience, I think, to do that, or they might be frightened.
Yeah,
that's just my feedback on that.
So we have Greg with his hand raised, and before that, Amanda had wrote in, I really like the spin wheel that NEDARC used in a previous meetings. And now we'll go to Greg.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Amanda. Yes, great.
Oh, I'll totally echo what Amanda said. I know that spin wheel. I've used it. It's awesome. I would say that in the like weekly meetings that we have with the business office, I have to meet with several of my staff people twice a week, and we know each other really well. To speak to Vicky's point, we usually share for the first 10 or 15 minutes about whatever's going on in our lives, and that's usually related to kids that are usually driving us crazy. And we share those stories, which is fun and cathartic all at the same time. But also a thing that I really like to do with meetings is in regards to the distractions, especially early on in COVID, was to give people permission for the distractions that they could not possibly avoid. I'm certain that Mike has met my 6-year-old daughter that has wandered in behind me in a meeting, and he goes, "Oh, is that your daughter?" I'm like, "What? Oh, I didn't even hear her sneak up here." So I think giving people a little bit of grace at the beginning of a meeting is just as important as you know, kind of setting the rules.
Yeah, that's really you know, something so relatable, Greg. You know, that we all have things that are out of our control, but that you decide to kind of create a space for that, you know, whether it's spoken or unspoken, and that you decide ahead of time that, you know, we're going to take this 10 minutes at the beginning of the meeting because you know each other so well, to Vicky's point, but also to Mark's point about staying on track and staying on time is something that you build in. So I really appreciate that feedback. Great things to remember, you know, that we're all human, we're all in a virtual space, existing in a physical space that other people can't see or know about, and appreciated all of the feedback and all of the great responses to this question. Incidentally, that's another strategy that you can use to increase engagement is bookending your meeting with a question at the end you want people to be thinking about throughout, like we did today, and then, you know, creating the expectation at the end of the meeting, we're going to want feedback on this. It helps to really kind of pin things up nicely, to really share all of the strategies that you come up with. And it also signals the end of the meeting or close to the end of the meeting. So that, you know, people are wrapping up, people can have that expectation too. So I really, really appreciate all of your engagement and your comments during this session. I've learned a lot just from listening to you. So thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and just kind of wrap up and review about what we talked about today. So we learned about keeping participants engaged through casual conversations, through virtual backgrounds, and through different types of meeting activities. Remember, it's really important to make time for that light conversation, that chit chat. It keeps your participants engaged throughout the meeting if you choose to do it throughout, and can keep topics on track as well. Try using those virtual background things, play with them, and, you know, check out those websites that we talked about or some new that you find on your own online. It really does create unity. It creates interest in your meetings for increased engagement that way. And finally, engage your participants with activities like polling, like storytelling, like round robin techniques, just to get them a little bit more involved. Remember that all of the workshop tools that we've learned about are important to help increase engagement. And you might not be able to implement absolutely everything that we've learned, but remember that engagement, again, isn't just one thing. It's implementing multiple strategies over time so that your engagement increases. The more you implement multiple tools, not just one, the more your engagement is definitely going to improve. So these are our available resources for this session. We've got our Hosting Remote Meetings user guide, which you've seen previously. This was created by NEDARC specifically for EMSC, so we hope you check that one out. Also by NEDARC are tools and skills for engaging stakeholders that contain a lot of ideas and strategies from a previous workshop. Some of you may remember in 2017. And we also have a link to recent tech talk that Eddie gave that I mentioned. It's about Slido, and it's a really unique way to do polling. That was a lot of fun, so I hope you check that one out as well. And of course, we're going to be sharing all of our workshop slides that you can review online on our website. These are references so that you know that I didn't make any of this up. You can check them out. I hope you do. There are a lot of great references and resources located here as well. And this is the last topic for Life Cycle 2. And just thank you so much again for your participation.